heard someone have a really positive reaction to Clam Blitz. It's starting to grow on me, but it didn't at first. But Humpback Pump Track seems like the kind of map that's really going to give us an opportunity to figure out like what makes it such a fun mode to play in as well as spectate.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to play. I find it because of the chaos that you're talking about. You know, you never know when something's going to happen. There's a lot less control as for the other modes. So looks like we're getting right into this here on Humpback Pump Track Clam Blitz. And here we go.
So Inkafe and Alacrity are the first teams leading us into this, and going right into it, seeing the spread of ink immediately very wide compared to a lot of other game modes, but it's sort of well facilitated by this map. Humpback Pump Track, of course, having a very large main court, and players are going to have to traverse it to collect as many clams as they can, try and get that power clam as quick as they can, and fight things off, and it looks like Alacrity is at least going to get first pick.
Definitely. And this comp is really interesting, too. Using a bamboo, not something that I would necessarily expect on this map, just because it doesn't have a lot of what the other chargers would want for this. But in Clam Blitz, it's definitely what you want. You want to be able to move fast. You want to be able to get around your opponents really quickly and pick up those clams as fast as possible. So jumping in and out. What I find interesting about this, too, is the location of the baskets. It's really nice because they're central to mid, but they're not so far from spawn. So if you're in a situation where the other team is coming at you and you need to be there to defend, you can get there pretty quickly while it's not so far as port, per se.
Certainly, and mobility, of course, being a very key aspect of trying to traverse this map, and in general, while trying to maintain the action of Clam Blitz, it looks like Inkafe going to get a little bit of a lead here, trying to get together their clams. They're staying right in front of the enemy net, but not really able to do anything with this lead they have. And picked right out of the splashdown. That bamboozle actually coming in handy now.
Definitely, and that shot's always something that I personally try to practice because you never want to be underneath a splashdown like that. Losing all their clams is a tough shot for them. They're, going to have to re-pick up everything. But both teams in a pretty good situation as per how many clams they have. No one has a power clam, or there's one right there, as I say that. And Jackie is able to get in the first points on the map, and their team is there getting as many as they can.
Now, Jackie's doing something that I found very interesting throughout the day as more players were showcasing some tactics behind Clam Blitz, holding the net open as well as they can. Instead of just putting as many points in immediately, if someone can hold the point, make sure that there's ink for their team to run in and get more points in general, just going one clam at a time to keep resetting the timer is such a good tactic because it's very well communicated to the rest of your team.
Definitely. What it's also going to do is it's going to allow you to get time for other people to come closer. If your team can't get there in time, your penalty is going to be a lot less by throwing in one or two at a time than if you were to get like a 50 or 30 to 50 point lead right there. So this penalty is only at 17, which is really good because it's just 2 power clams and they'll be able to continue to mark down that point.
Taking a look at the map control now, it seems how Inkafe has been able to turn the tides at the very least. They've got the net open and a lot of ink on center field for themselves. Going to give them an easier time to try and hold the net if they could. It's going to close now, but they still control a lot of the field. It's going to give them more time to be able to further contest and at that point also defend as well.
Definitely, and holding those bubbles, timing your specials is so important right now too, because you need to be able to use them. You can use them for defense, you can use them for offense, exactly what Butter Danu is doing right now. They don't have as many clams there as they might need, so that's really not going to help them, and that's a full team wipe too. It's
going to be a fantastic lead for Alacrity if they can get themselves prepared. They already have a power clam trying to move through the point, and it is going to open the net. Not as many points thanks to the penalties, however, it looks like Inkafe is able to hold themselves for the time being. A flank trying to come through, but I don't know if Jackie's going to be able to position themselves in time.
Unfortunately, the moment that the barrier goes back up, you have a little bit of a delay. So even if Jackie was there, they might not have been able to get that power clam in as fast as they would have wanted to. This is also a really nice technique. Picking up the power clam, throwing it again, picking it up again, making sure that you're not spotted on the map by the opposite team. So, one of the things that I'm sure that they're communicating to one another saying, hey, I'm going for it, I'm going to leave it, I'm picking it up, so on and so forth. So it's something to look at when we're talking about this as well.
And Humpback in particular leads a lot to that particular strategy, just because there's so many points of cover on the map. Thanks to its unique curvature, all across the middle point and the wider walls leading up to those nets, there's a lot of points where you can hide the power clam for your team, pass it off to someone if necessary, and even at that, hold it.
For sure, definitely. That's what's so nice about this map, too, is the height differences here. You know, it makes it really fun to run with specific types of weapons and comps. I'm surprised we actually don't see a slosher on this. That is something that I would have expected to see. But right there, that's the most painful part. When you miss that shot, and then you're just like, oh my gosh.
It's so much time wasted, unfortunately. However, they did manage to get it in. And with a massive rush from Inkafe, they're going to be able to get the lead, push themselves into overtime.
Yeah, overtime is really interesting, too, because it lasts until the other team is able to have that power clam that they currently have dissolved. So, you know, there's one that dropped right down underneath Alacrity's basket there, but if they did pick it up, but if they're able to get in, you know, and they're close enough, unfortunately, they're not able to do it in time.
Yeah, that's going to be that for game one, going to go in favor of Inkafe. Very well played on both sides. It seemed that a bit more unorthodox of an approach to Clan Blitz was on Alacrity. That might have faulted them. There's nothing wrong with, you know, traditional game plans as organizing your strikes. If it ain't broken, don't fix it.
For sure. And I think that's something to be said, too. We're talking about how new this mode is. You know, we're still all figuring out the best way to play it. And when you're playing with different teammates, when you're at a LAN especially, you know, it might change things up a little bit if you're not used to playing it all the time.
Certainly. But that's enough for Clan Blitz for the time being. We'll see a bit more of that later on in the day. Next, we get to go to Kelp Dome for tower control for Game 2.
Oh, yikes. We saw this all day yesterday.
We were seeing a lot of tower control given the condensed map list that we're using here at Beakon. And I have to say, it's probably one of the most stressful combinations to watch.
Yes. I am not a fan of Kelp Dome in general. It's one of those maps that I find to be too square for me. There's not enough movement space. There aren't enough areas you can get out of spawn for me. I tend to get stuck really quickly. One of my really good friends plays heavy, and he just sits up there on the ramp and camps me out, and he purposely looks for me. So that's something that I have difficulty with, and we didn't see that yesterday. You know, a lot of the teams were playing really well. They knew the map. They knew what they were talking about. And they knew, you know, the best movements that they could do, which I think is great that Beakon was able to publish the map list so early on so a lot of teams could get some scrimming practice in.
Definitely. At least in preparing for this event, trying to study as much as I could, there's a lot of maps in Splatoon 2. There's a lot of them, and a lot of combinations given the game modes, and especially with Clan Blitz being added to that roster. So to have a little bit less to study, a little bit more to focus on, definitely appreciated. And you bring up a really good point with movement on Kelp Dome. There's so much space that you can't ink. A lot of it's a lot more traditional movement, a lot more control. And for majority of game modes, especially tower control, the catwalks and that infamous choke point are so pivotal to being able to control.
Definitely. You know, and I know it was a Splatoon 1 map. Having never played the original game, I find that I really enjoy learning about the maps that have come back and seeing what the changes were. And a lot of people had said that they enjoy this Kelp Dome much more than the original. So, you know, we'll see how these teams do on it today.
And they're going to be loading right into it for tower control on Kelp Dome. With Inkafe having the lead, see if they can take that momentum that they managed to garner from their victory in Clan Blitz, see how well they manage.
I love the player cams.
Yeah, this is a really nice touch. I'm glad we were able to work this out together.
Definitely.
But with those dropping, we look at the initial map control. A lot of ink all over the place, and this is one thing I've noticed about a lot of teams opting for initially just trying to go around the tower, go for that first firefight, so they can have a lot of their ink as they move ahead with the tower.
Definitely. I mean, this was a very quick opportunity for I think it's Inkafe to get onto tower and take this lead pretty fast. For the amount of time that we've been in this match already, 60. Getting this point down is really impressive. And look at their map control. They have so much of that area where they can just walk through. Having that Stingray come out, being the offense, you know, literally Kenny is being pushed by the tower right there. So, you know, that's what you want to see in order to make that push. At the third checkpoint, that's going to force them off the tower. But still, Bubbles coming out helps a little bit. All these different ways of saving your specials for only 1 minute into the match, I think that they've been doing really well.
A phenomenal play from C4, going to manage an entire team wipe.
Amazing. That's a fantastic play right there. Anytime you get a quad, you expect.
in general, just a dominating performance in that game too.
Yes, absolutely wonderful. And, here they are, like, having a good time. And you can see that, too, that everyone's having fun while they're doing this. And that's what's so great about these LANs, being able to play with, your team and the people that you really care about in person. You have such a more excitable hype moment when you have that type of thing happen.
Definitely, definitely.
So next we're looking at Mako Rainmaker. I love this map.
This is a fun one.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. There's so many ways that you can hide. There's lots of opportunity for movement. The walls are really fun. And when you're just looking at the graphics, you see all these like food things there. It's so exciting. I really enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to seeing this one played. And Rainmaker is nice because you have a couple of different avenues that you can take here. You can go up the left side, which is a little slower but more consistent, or you can go up the right, which is very dangerous. But if you make it, you're going to get the point much faster.
Absolutely. There's a lot of areas to be able to contest for those two avenues. Despite how many walls and how many points of elevation there are on Mako Mart, it itself is a very wide, very open field. So this is going to be one of those maps that facilitates weapon changes to more long-range stuff. I could see it forced to maybe more traditional chargers coming out, possibly splatter shot pros. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of gals. It's really just a matter of, like, how well can they contest that space, how safely.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we've seen Bamboo so far both times coming out from, I think it's Alacrity. So I'm interested. We're going to see that again, I'm sure. I'm sure both teams are going to have a charger. We might see a Stingray. Definitely having those range, like you're saying, is something that you really want here. Especially when you're on those top boxes and you want to be able to kind of rain down upon your opponent. I think that's something to be said for it.
And we're going right into it. Teams are going to organize their ink lines, trying to go beeline it for the Rainmaker. This initial pop going to be pivotal, and it looks like it's going to go in favor of Alacrity. Trying to push a little bit forward, see if they can at least contest or control that Rainmaker, but it's going to be a messy one.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime, I feel like right away, Alacrity is able to pick it up. They're going up that left side, which is the slower pathway, but the little bit more safer one. And kind of, if they're able to get through this push a little bit, then make something happen. Unfortunately, not able to do so. That ends the push, but it was a really good rush forward.
We're going to get that initial 57-point push, and it's going to put enough of a pressure on Inkafe that they're going to have to at least force the point past the neutral position. Fortunately enough, the Rainmaker does respawn rather often on Mako Mart.
It does, yeah. And this is something that I tend to do as well, constantly resetting Rainmaker. If you're in a position where it's too close to your own, your respawn or podium, you want to reset it as quickly as you can. This is exactly what I'm talking about here. This right-hand straight is so narrow and confining that you really don't want to get stuck there if your team's not around. Alacrity knows, Jackie's right there waiting to back up Wisdom, which is what you want. You want your teammates there to help you through it. So Wisdom pushing through with Rainmaker, hoping gets 2, which is a great run there. And right there.
What they need.
Oh, that is what they need. Yep. That's game.
All right, so Alacrity putting a point on the map, keeping themselves alive here in bronze bracket. It's going to be taking us, in fact, to a game 4. Very well planned, very well organized push. Lets them take Rainmaker on Mako Mart.
Yeah, really nice. Really great gameplay there. You could tell that they were talking to each other because at that one point he was about to go to the right and then decided, nope, I'm going to go the other direction. So that's the type of teamwork you really want to see on this.
In general, a really good call. I'm not sure who Alacrity has for their shot caller or if they have a designated shot caller, but for team games like this, communication is so pivotal to being able to organize your efforts well, make sure that you save your resources as far as your specials, your subs, how you're going to organize and time those strikes on each map.
Definitely. And it looks like our next one is Inkblot Splat Zones. I really like Splat Zones as my second favorite mode, Clan Blitz being the first.
And it's a good mode to have for a favorite. I feel like Splat Zones is one of the quintessential Splatoon game types. The idea of being able to contest one central area, you have to ink it, you have to control it. There's a lot of strategy that goes behind how you control the map and where you're going to force the battle.
Definitely, yeah. And I think this map is really nice for it too. Inkblot's a really fun map for me. I think the design of all of the Splatoon maps are really nice, and it's something I enjoy, but this is good because it has decent zone. It's not too large. You know, the movement is really good. So it's all about making sure that you have map control. You can get in, get out, take over that zone really quickly.
So they're going to go right into it. I'm interested to see how that center podium has an impact on control of the map. We saw a lot yesterday how chargers, or just in general long-ranged shooters like a Squelcher or 96 Gal, were able to force a lot of the fights past the point, and forcing the firefight past the initial capture is so important to being able to effectively hold the Splat zone.
Definitely. And on this map, if you're able to force that in, you're able to get up to the other team's spawn and kind of hold them on their plat, that's exactly what you want for this. Because they can't get out. There aren't a lot of options for them to move. You know, they can go up to that left side, but someone's usually going to be there, which we can see with Alacrity right there. Best and Wisdom kind of trading off, waiting for that opportunity if someone's going to try to come up and try to flank.
And Butterdan trying to come around the side, but Pacecat has it covered. Dabble Dually is a very interesting weapon, just because it's one of those things that's better for the sake of inking for your team. The concentrated fire, of course, good for being able to take out individual inkings, but also more importantly for getting that special ready.
Definitely.
Specials, I feel, are going to be a very key point to taking this point back.
Yeah, 100%. And we were talking yesterday about Pacecat's dualies, and, you know, who I was commentating with had said, you know, that is, Hitzel was saying that is the weapon that you want to watch Pacecat play. So, you know, it's really exciting to see, too. And that's what's also really fun here, when you get to meet all these people and see how quickly they do. So that was a super fast takedown for Inkafe. And I think that's our round.
Yep, that will be the set. 3-1 in favor of Inkafe, taking it over Alacrity. They'll be advancing further into the bronze bracket. I don't think they'll be playing another game, but it looks like they don't want to get up. I don't blame them, though.
I don't either. Those chairs are super comfy. Did you get to sit in any of them?
Yes. So I help with operating the venue. I've spent the past couple of weeks building this stage.
Oh, nice.
I'm so happy. So
it's 2-2. So we were completely wrong on that. So, yeah, so then we have one more match. Awesome. Port Clamblitz. This is going to be so much fun. Stingrays, you have Clamblitz, which is always just like absolutely crazy. So this is really one that I enjoy. And this is kind of what we were talking about earlier too, how I was saying how far the basket is from spawn. If you have an enemy team there, you're in so much trouble. You won't get there fast enough.
Yeah, the net is placed in a particularly precarious area for Port Mackerel. Port Mackerel itself being one of those maps that in turn is very difficult to control, just because there's so many small avenues that your lines of ink can be cut off by anything, whether it's stray fire, teammate getting splatted, and the enemy ink being concentrated onto one of your paths that you're trying to travel along, or one special in particular that I like to think of is the ink storm. Those little bits of ink are going to cut off so many methods of travel, and it's going to make it very difficult to be able to advance upon the net.
Definitely. I have a friend who plays Brella, and this is the mode and the map that he plays Brella, because, you know, it's narrow enough that you get that ink storm down the center or over top of the enemy's barrier. They're not going to be able to move as quickly as they want to. The other thing that I really like on this map is to see beacons. I think that's something that we haven't talked about a whole lot this weekend, but with the huge buff that they got, I love beacons. I think they're so cool.
Beacons were always my favorite sub in Splat 1, and I feel like there's a criminally low amount of them in Splatoon 2.
Yeah.
Like, it just makes me sad, but whenever they are out, they are used very effectively, and I feel like Port is a phenomenal map for that. There's a lot of points of cover, a lot of points that you want to be able to access very quickly, and if you don't have a teammate that's holding themselves back on purpose so that you can jump to them, it's really important to be able to have that type of vision, especially, if not a point to jump to.
Definitely. And now that you can see where the other team is around your beacon, I think that's amazing.
It's so much information gathered without having to sacrifice having someone being in a set position.
Exactly. So it looks like we're getting into this, and there's our, you know, we have our Stingrays, of course. I'm really excited to see 2 sloshers. I'm a slosher main myself, so seeing those, I always get really happy.
And this map in particular is really good for the slosher, as far as wanting to be able to hit those higher grounds, because they're so important being able to cover for your teammates if you take the high ground.
Definitely. And, you know, right away we can see that both sides are going as fast as they can to try to get all the clams that are already scattered on the ground. You know, we played Clamblitz for our first match, and neither team wants to let the other one get as far as they had last time, because it wasn't a shutout, but, that double Stingray coming out is also going to be really great defense. Here you're talking about your rain right there, right over top of that barrier.
The double Stingrays is terrifying on this map. I just want to take a quick moment just to showcase, like, two of them, beams crossed, were able to cover almost the entire map, completely well defended for Inkafe. Regardless of the Ink Storm being able to provide a lot of ink for Alacrity, they could not push forward at all.
Yeah, and that's why we're talking about this map being, Stingray Mecca. Sometimes are you planning to see 2 or 3? I've never played against a team that's run 4 unless they're actually memeing, but it's definitely something that could be done as well.
I really don't want to see serious Stingray 4s. That's
gosh.
even scarier. And one thing that's, I feel like, important to note for Clam Blitz on Fort Mackerel specific is a lot of players, as they get to learn Clam Blitz, complain that the spawns of the clams seems very random, it's very out of place. Because of the layout of a lot of the higher grounds for Port, a lot of the clams are very streamlined where you're already going to be. They're going to be in those avenues that you're trying to traverse. They're going to appear around the center court. So it's very natural to be able to get a power clam very easily. It's a matter about if you can get that to the opposite side.
Definitely, and I think that's what we're seeing here too. We're already, down to 3 minutes, and neither team has scored a power clam into the other's barrier. And that's what they're talking about. It's a really easy basket to defend because of it where it's located on a left or right side. There's no real flanking here. That's not something that we're going to see, but I completely agree with you. As you're moving through the map, you're going to pick up those clams naturally. And you're able to build that power clam much faster. This is exactly what I'm talking about here, ball. If they were able to let someone else pop the ball for them, they wouldn't have lost all those clams right there. So it's a matter of thinking, all right, do I want to pop this and hopefully get a couple kills, or do I want to wait?
You see the auto bomb coming in clutch, being able to come to that point, and once again, just bringing up, as we were discussing earlier, these nets haven't been touched. They've barely been able to even get power clams near the nets, let alone be able to contest them. All players seem to have, at least on the higher end of clams, as we look at the point, Alacrity does have a lot of clams. They just don't have them all organized, nor can they really get themselves pushing forward. Stingray going to try and get them to press forward, and it looks like everyone's just giving all of their clams to Pastead. Give him the power clam, going to allow the first net break.
Very nice. That was a really nice play, because they were all moving in together. They were making sure that the other team wasn't aware that they had that many, that they could organize that quickly. And they're still chipping down on that point. Getting in 53, that's a nice solid lead right now. That's kind of what we want to see at 1.5 minutes left.
Getting a few choice picks, Inkafe does manage to defend themselves enough to get their shield back up. However, 53 points, and considering how close of a firefight things have been between both of these teams, I don't know if Alacrity is going to be able to pick themselves up in time to bring us back.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, how they're going to be able to do it. They're definitely working on it, and you can see that Inkafe is trying to push forward, but right now they're, unable to make that forward momentum. They have a power clam finally on the map that, they're really close. That barrier is almost undefended right now. You just have that charger, and with that Stingray special, this is where C4 might want to decide, hey, I'm going to toss you the clam to someone else and launch that Stingray as a nice cover.
And while we focus in on C4's play, C4 really hasn't had an opportunity to pick at any of the members of Alacrity. They're doing an excellent job of staying in their cover, staying out of the line of sight of that spiraling. And even though there's a lot of clams on the side of Inkafe, they have not had a single opportunity to press forward. The curling bomb going to be pressing them back further.
Definitely. And, that's such a painful one, too. Those curling bombs always catch me out surprise, and I'm just So, I could definitely see that power clam going down. They were able to pick it up, so, that's something to be said. And it looks like at this point, Alacrity is just holding. Inkafe is able to get one power clam in, but all of Alacrity is right there playing a really good defense. Even with that Stingray going off, there's no one over there for Inkafe to continue to put clams in. So that's game. That's
going to be the end of the set. Very well played on both sides. I feel like Alacrity really organized themselves very well in that last game. They recognized that Pastecat had the best mobility for getting himself safely towards the net. And even towards the end of that game, he managed to distract almost all of Inkafe by trying to flank around, bring a power clam in.
Yep.
And they didn't even need the extra points for the sake of the lead, but pulling all of that attention away so close, I feel was vital to them being able to take the set.
Definitely. I mean, sometimes all you need is a really good distractant. I've said it before. If you can distract a bunch of the other players and have someone go up in and take the point, that could be game. So, you know, it's definitely really fun Splatoon to watch. For our first match of the day, too, you know, our first round, it's awesome. We have a huge day coming up. It's going to be amazing. I'm so excited to see that everything that's going down today. And I know I'm going to be playing soon, so I'm not.
It's all right. We planned for this. We knew that somehow. All right, so everyone would be involved in bronze and silver brackets, and a lot of players made it into day 2 play. So as far as commentators go, there's going to be a lot of swapping seats. You're going to be able to see us on both streams, so make sure to get that multi-Twitch ready for you today. Because here at EndGameTV 1 and over on the opposite stream over at Aeon Streams, you're going to catch a lot of Splatoon action today for day 2 of Beakon.
Definitely. And I think they're trying to call me out. So
yeah, I'm
that's
seeing like at least 3 or 4 faces